Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Crusher Crossan here. We are live with an NWF Forward once again, live on a Thursday, as we always do. And we have a great show tonight, guys. We're going to be talking to a group, Primos Premier Pro Wrestling. They're in the Colorado suburbs of Denver area. And it'll be a fascinating conversation. We're going to talk about their youth training program that they have. And it's going to be a great show. But one thing I do want to point out here before we get started, if I can, is want to give a shout out to John Hoffman. Happy birthday, John. It's his birthday today. He was back in the day, was part of the Destructors. Psycho was his name. And John's a great guy. I happened to reconnect with him when I was in Minnesota last year. So it was great to see John again. And of course, John, when he was doing the wrestling with us back in the day, he was also into Golden Gloves boxing big time, and he went to nationals there and eventually became a professional boxer and promoter of boxing. So, he still stayed with the ring, just a little different avenue for him. But happy birthday, John. So yeah, we got a great show. It's going to be Primos Premier Pro Wrestling, and they have a youth training program. Like, as you know, with Forward, when we do Rewind, we look back at what we did, but when we do Forward, we're looking ahead at the future of kids in wrestling and kids/teens. And so this is going to be a fascinating conversation. I'm really looking forward to it. So we're still waiting for some of the guys to connect in, but we've got a few here. We've got that we'll be bringing in. I'm going to bring in, his name's Daryl Becker. He's the head trainer for the youth training program. And we have one of the young trainers in there as well, Malachi. So let's bring these guys in right now, and we'll just wait for the others to connect in, and we'll get started. And remember, guys, we are live, so any questions or comments that you have, go ahead, ask away. We'll bring those questions in, and as we get going with the interviews. So that's always the case. So let me bring in our guests then that we have connected so far. And we've got Daryl Becker, and we've got Malachi. Am I right?
Yeah.
All right.
Robert.
Good.
And Daryl, you're the head trainer of the youth training program. So I guess welcome in, guys, to Forward, first of all. And, this podcast is not only on YouTube. We also go on Spotify and iHeart and all the usuals for the audio side. But we are live on YouTube. So if you ever want to catch us live, you have to be on the YouTube stream for any questions that we have. And so if you have questions, ask them. But like I said, Forward's all about the future. I started this podcast because I was fascinated when I learned of kids in the United Kingdom that were already at 9 and 10 years old having matches. And I was like, what's going on here? I never thought I would see that, So, and then lo and behold, as I start digging into this, I'm finding more and more places doing this. And you guys are one of them. So, Daryl, let's start here. When did the youth training program start with the league there in Colorado?
That is a good question. That would definitely be one better suited for Joe when he gets here.
Okay.
But for myself, I've been with the program for at least a year now.
Okay.
So I know it's been running for at least that long, probably longer, at least a couple years as far as I know.
Okay. All right. So, and then I know what Joe had told me in the email that I had is he said that they haven't had any matches yet, but they're trying to think of how they're going to work that in here right now, going at this point in time. Is that right?
Yep, that is correct. That is definitely the goal, is to have some of these guys in the ring doing matches, maybe even having spots with us. I'm super excited about that. Malachi down here, he's actually our most tenured student. We
Yep.
have a couple others, Charles, who hopefully will be here soon as well, who's come very far in the short amount of time that he's been with us as well.
Sure.
So, yeah, I'm super excited to see what they're going to be able to do and what we're actually going to be able to do with them.
So, Malachi, when did you start your training? Like, how long have you been doing this?
Like half a year. Started when I was turning 8.
Okay, so 6 months or so.
So a year.
Okay, and it's once a week on Sundays, I believe, correct?
Yes.
How long is it? How long does a training session go for you?
Like for till the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, all the way to the afternoon.
Okay, so about 3 hours, 4 hours.
Typically,
Yeah.
class starts about 9:30, 9:45, and then we go till about 11:30.
Okay, yep, 2 to 3 hours then. Sure. And then, so how did you find out about it, Malachi? Like, how did you know this was going on?
Well, I didn't know about it till I was going to my birthday party, and that's how I started.
Okay. And you're obviously a fan of wrestling, am I right?
Yeah, I've been watching wrestling since I was a little tiny baby.
Sure. Yep. I mean, let's face it, if we don't have that, well, what are we doing this for, right? Everybody's a fan of professional wrestling if you're involved with it. So that kind of goes without saying. But yeah, so now we have a question here from our crowd and Sports Video. He's asking, now I know this isn't really going to apply to you guys, but he's saying, do kids at 9 or 10 years old get paid for any matches they do, or is it just part of a learning program? Well, with you guys right now, you haven't had any matches yet, correct?
Yeah.
And when they do have matches, will there be any compensation for the kids, or is it just going to be part of the program to have them in front of a crowd?
That I'm not exactly sure. My guess, more than likely, it'll be a way to help pay their dues.
Sure.
And just learn about the business and learn about the crowd, ring work, everything like that.
I know with the other organizations, Sports Video, like that I've talked with, it's when they go into the adult training program is when they start getting some compensation. So it's like once they graduate from I'm thinking of Northern Ireland, like Ricky Henry, when he graduated from the junior training to the adult classes, that's when he was able to make a little, they get a little bit when they do shows and stuff, just like any other indie fed out there. So, but the benefit is this: as kids, Malachi, like yourself, starting out young, you're going to be ahead of the curve. So by the time you get into that phase of it, you're going to have a lot more experience than a lot of the guys that are just starting out because they didn't have the training you had.
Yeah.
That's the payoff, right?
Yeah.
Sure. And and just Sports Video, as you know, with the NWF, nobody made any money. The league made money, but with our live events, but all that money went back into the organization. So there was no, and something as kids back then, and I'm sure it's the same for you, it wasn't about the money. It was about, learning it, right? And just wanting to have fun with it and be a part of it. So yeah, good question though. So, Daryl, let's go back to you then. What's been the biggest challenge in training the kids so far since you've been doing it for about a year now? What do you find the most challenging aspect of this?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't feel as though I've really come across any challenges.
Okay.
Except like maybe your normals, illnesses, weather, scheduling, things like that, things that happen last minute. But this has actually been a really rewarding experience, if anything else.
Sure.
Being able to be a part of this and help them learn that's the reason why I do it.
Yeah.
So as far as challenges, I really haven't seen any out of the norm.
And then obviously, now have you seen kids then like in that, like let's look at Malachi, for example. Since he started from where he started at 6 months ago and where he's at now, have you noticed definitely that he's getting the grasp of it and it's he's definitely picking up on the things you've been training him?
Oh, for sure. Oh,
Sure.
for sure. There's been a huge increase in his awareness, his body mechanics, everything like that. Even his communication skills in the ring have definitely increased in the past 6 months. For sure. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, well, you figure every week, getting that proper guidance and training, it's bound to, right? That's what we find, as I've talked to several organizations, and that's all kind of been the same thing. It's like, and I guess let me ask you this: what are the first things you're starting to teach them? Like, if a kids were to come through your program, what's the first thing they're gonna be taught?
Well, we're actually going to go over roles. The first thing we start off with class is we do our roles, kind of just do some stretches, things like that, kind of warm ourselves up. It's almost like an elementary phys ed class in a way. We kind of do our jumping jacks and stretches and things like that, roll around a little bit, kind of work on showing them how to hit the ropes, things like that. But then as they progress through those, then we'll add a few other things in. Like, okay, let's show you how to lock up. Let's show you how to do a headlock. Let's show you how to, move around the ring a little bit more while you're actually connected with somebody.
Sure. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it just brings back so many memories. Like locking. A lot of times people don't realize when you lock up, you don't just lock up. It's collar and elbow, right? There's a technique to it, and it's when you do learn it, it's like, okay, I see. It's like the light bulb goes off, right?
Yep, it's the steps that you're taking. Those fundamentals, we really push the fundamentals, and that's the key word. Is we try to make it fun.
Yeah,
learning those fundamentals at a young age, it's key to their development.
Sure,
in and outside of the ring.
And a lot of times I suppose you have kids that realize that, hey, this isn't, I thought we were going to be going off the top rope right away. And they're I'm sure you get that, right? That they don't realize that there's some basics they got to learn first.
Right. Yeah. We do leave some time for free time once we kind of go through a couple of things, but yeah, we're like, oh, let's go jump off the top rope. Let's go run around. I'm like, okay, hold on. We'll get to that.
So how many kids are in a class with Malachi? Like when he goes to his training, how many kids are we talking about that are in a class?
The most I've had at one time for a class is probably like 4 or 5.
Yeah, that's probably a good number.
Decent sized class too, if you think about it.
Because if you get too many, it starts getting chaotic. Right.
Yeah.
And if kids at that age, mine's going which direction. So
right.
Well, so, but like I was saying, and I, once if Joe, hopefully Joe can get connected. I hope he's not having any issues. But I would think, like, Malachi, what's your goal in all of this? What do you want to do with this? You just want to learn. You're learning it obviously, but what is your goal right now?
My goal is to try to go to AEW or WWE.
That's good. That's long-term goal, and your long-term goal should always be big like that, right?
Yeah.
Because if you have like, let's say if I asked, like, what's your end game, and you were to say, well, I just want to get a match, well, that's going to happen in due time. But to get to the WWE, it's going to take work, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you want to have a goal like that,
Yeah.
So it's, I can relate to that. When we did our show way back in the day, at the very beginning, we were on freaking bed mattresses. That's how we started. And, but my mind at that time, and I even have an interview with me saying it, I said, we're going to construct a ring. We're going to make ourselves a ring. And we're going to, in my mind, I wanted to be in front of people doing this in a big event. And in 2 years, we did that. But I could never get to it at the time. So that's what I'm saying. When you want to have a goal that's unreachable, right? And you just have to keep working for it. So in this business too, hard work pays off. So, and I'm sure Daryl, you can attest to that as well.
Yes. Sometimes we feel we don't work hard enough sometimes.
Yep. Got a question here from our crowd here. Damian Thorne says, I'm sorry, I might have missed it. Where are Daryl and the boys from? Because we've had people from all over the world, really. So, yeah, they're I say the Denver, Colorado area, but what's the actual town you're in up there?
It's called Westminster.
Right, and that's a suburb of Denver, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's
Yep.
about 20 minutes north.
Yeah, so in Colorado, not too far from me. I'm over here in Salt Lake City right now, so
Okay.
just across the mountains. But yeah, so now are the kids? So I know that I'm sure you don't have all the details on it, Daryl, but I know Joe's thinking they're trying to figure out a way to start doing some like a spot with you, like you said, or something. Have you gotten like how's that being presented to the kids? Like, are they just going to have to work for that spot, or?
Well, my goal is to actually be able to do something with each of them.
Okay.
I don't want anybody to feel left out or anything because
Sure.
I mean, this can be a pretty tough business, but I want them to all be able to get their spot and all be able to get their shine at some point. That way they have a goal to keep going for,
Yep.
But yeah, I'm actually trying to work something with each student. Malachi, we talked about things. We actually talk about things each week if we can. We work on different things each week to eventually incorporate into that spot that we're eventually going to do with them.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Like I was talking about earlier, the young man Charles, who hopefully we'll be able to connect to, I want to work something with him. He's a Special Olympian. He's won 3 gold medals in 3 different sports, and I would love to work something with him eventually because I think that would actually do wonders for both him and the community that he's a part of.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're going to be seeing some of the stuff with Charles in our videos that we show here coming up when I get to that part of it. Hopefully we can get him to connect as well. I hope these guys aren't having issues connecting, so we'll just have to see. Because once they connect, they'll just appear on these boxes that you see for him. Another question here for Malachi that just came in from Sky Sports Video News. He wants to know, Malachi, do you plan on joining your school's wrestling team when you get older? Is there any interest in the actual school wrestling side?
Kind of. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
They're 2 different things, but similar. There's similarities that do definitely come in from that. More so back in the day, but I think it still plays a little bit of an effect to it. But yeah, there's just fundamental things. But it's a different kind of wrestling, Malachi. That's for sure. It's not, it's a competition when you get into that, right? I always said though, there's still competition in professional wrestling. You know where the competition is? It's in selling better than your opponent can sell. That's where the competition is. You want to shine for the promotion. So, yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, we always get these. I think Sky Sports asks all our guests that. He's always curious if they're interested in regular wrestling as well. So, yeah. So you said you had about 5 or 6 kids, and do you guys in your training? Are you just pretty much doing spots and moves and maneuvers? Or are you doing actual like dark matches or mock matches?
Every once in a while, we will do an actual match with them, but for the most part, we're really going with the fundamentals. We will have some free time, about 30 minutes or so of free time at the end of class, where we bring out the crash pad and we'll do suplexes and body slams, and
sure.
Yeah.
They pretty much beat me up at the end of class.
And then
it's an absolute blast. I take all the moves from them. I kind of show them how to do different moves. Micah here, he's working on a 619 right now, and he has a pretty good Uso splash going right now too. So yeah, we try to work different spots in there along with everything, along with hammering those fundamentals. Yeah, we try to make it as fun and engaging as possible.
Yeah,
that way it keeps them involved. They don't get bored with it. Right.
That's the thing. You have to keep their interest at their level, at the age they're at. Kids are going in 100 different directions with their interest levels. That's one of the reasons I was talking to our guest we had last time and they were out in Michigan, Pure Pro Wrestling. But the reason martial arts starts at 6 years old and Golden Gloves starts early as well is because you need to get the kids locked in early, because once a certain thing happens when you hit adolescence, I say this in every show, girls, guitars, and rock and roll, right? And you start getting and that's why they start early, so they get them really locked in to still want to be a part of that, right? And it's the same thing here. So keeping the kids interested is key, right? And that's kind of where I was saying I was, hopefully when Joel, if we get him in here, I'll bring this up with him, and that is, and I guess it kind of goes into Gizmo's question. I'm going to bring Gizmo's question in because this ties into this. Daryl, what are your long-term plans with these boys in the program?
I want to get them ready to actually work into our program, the Primos program.
Sure.
They are a part of the youth program now, and then we have the chopping block division that would typically be right above that, and that's pretty much what's getting us ready to go to the main roster of Primos. So that's actually my goal, is to get them onto the Primos roster when they are ready.
And Joe was telling me in this email with me, the last one I got, is that he's hoping to try to get something going here in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So, So, it's not something that's, just they're talking about. They actually want to get going on this, but he's trying to figure out how to do it safely and the right way and everything like that. So,
yeah, my goal, and I think I'm going to bring this to them, and I think we may be on the same point, is like hopefully September, October.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's got to be exciting, huh, Malachi, to think that you can actually go out in front of a crowd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because let's face it, that's what you want. That's the whole reason you're wanting to learn this. You want the thrill of being in professional wrestling is entertaining, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead, Malachi.
I want to try to entertain people and think this is real, but it's actually not.
You just define the definition of pro wrestling right there. It's the art of illusion. It's making it look as real as you can, but being as safe as you can and not hurting your opponent. And that's what it's all about. Yep. So very good. Now here's something, Daryl. Are they getting taught how to do any kind of promo work? On a mic?
That is part of it. Yeah, we definitely work on character work. I would like for them both to work on both heel as well as face characters. That way they can learn both sides. The face, they obey the rules, they follow the rules. They're the Boy Scout, and then the heels, they break the rules. They do everything to lie, cheat, steal for the win. So, and we kind of find a little bit about that with these boys every week. We kind of find a little bit more about their character when they're working, when they're doing the free time. A little bit of that character work comes out.
Yep.
Because we encourage them, like, hey, when we do those spots, hey, sell a little bit. When you hit me, like, really lay it in, that way I can sell and I can show you. Now go celebrate, go taunt, go do this, go do that.
Yeah.
So we really encourage that. That way they get used to it and they get a real feel for it. They know what it's like and they can kind of practice it. That way, when they hit that stage, they hit that ring, for that spot, it's not as nerve-wracking. It's still going to be nerve-wracking, don't get me wrong. Every time I step through that curtain, it's nerve-wracking, no matter what.
Yeah.
But it's a little less every time.
And you're absolutely right. And, I'm just thinking back, like I said, what matters here is selling. The most important thing in this is not so much, in the indie leagues back in the day, there was a term, and I always bring it up. They used to call people, we'd have people that they call spot monkeys. You had guys in the indie circuit that only cared about getting their moment in the match, right? And it still happens to this day, you have guys like that. But the workers that are really good that people remember in promotion are the ones that sell and put over whoever they're in the ring with, and that matters. So, like you said, when you get hit, make it believable. Make it look. There was towards the end of our stint, when we started really trying to work matches right. When somebody would clothesline me, I would kick my feet up and land on the back of my shoulders, make it look like he just took my head off, right? Or if he hit me, I'd go flying in the turnbuckle and just make it look like he just waffled me. And it was fun because it was making it, believable, like you said. And that's really the art of it. So. The more and I'll tell you something, Malachi, once you start having matches and you get in the ring with somebody else that does that for you and you do that for them, these matches become memorable. Like the crowd's into it, everybody's into it. It just becomes something that becomes magical, So that's what gives you the. And when you have a match like that and it's a good one, and you get out of the ring and you're gonna go back and you're gonna be like, I want to do it again. I want to be in there again, right? They all know exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's all cool stuff. Let's see. We got another comment here. CJ Hawk, haven't seen you for a while, dude. It's good to see you, man. How's everyone tonight? I recently just now subbed to Primos Premier Pro Wrestling. All right. Yeah, you see all the social links for them there. Cool. Yeah, it's good to see you again, CJ. He's one of our viewers we've had over the years that we've done this. So yeah. I hope Joe can connect, but we'll keep going with us. Tell you what, we know what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to some of your highlights and stuff. We're gonna go to our watch line. We don't have a lot, but it'll show some of the training techniques, and we can keep talking as we watch this. So let's jump over to this screen.
Nice.
Now, I don't know if Malachi, if you can see this video playing or not, because you might not with you being on a cell phone. But yeah, this is like using the crash mat pad and.
We're showing him a drop toe hold there.
Yep.
Oh, and then I just got speared.
Yeah, then the Goldberg spear. Yeah, having these crash mat pads with the kids is key, isn't it, Daryl?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it really lets them, let loose. This is where the fun comes out.
Sure.
This is my favorite part of class 2.
Pin him.
Now, is that ring? What size ring are you guys got in there?
I believe that one is either 14 or 16.
Yeah. The smaller the ring, the better as far as learning. You know this probably, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Footwork and everything.
I love learning my running the ropes cadence in smaller rings. Mm-hmm. I can always adjust up from there.
Right. Because we had the opposite. We got our first ring we got was 20 by 20, and when I went to Eddie Sharkey and started working in a 16 by 16s, it was a tough transition, going from 20 foot to 16 foot. So having a small ring to go the other direction is much better. This video here is a little low quality, so sorry guys, it's a little hard to see, but I thought it was still good to have in here, so I got it in here. This is just a montage of some of their trainings, techniques that they're doing.
Yeah.
That's Daryl in there training, right?
Ready to go?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. What are you gonna do, little one?
I love how you get them going.
Yeah.
These basic things, guys, is really good stuff. And I'm not even looking at the crispness or anything here, everybody. Look, their heart is in it here. They're in the training session. They're having fun. They're enjoying this. And that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A great thing I just actually remembered not that long ago for one of our Primos shows. Our intro was a spot where I was in the ring and a couple of kids came in, and actually it was the opposite way. The kids were in the ring and I kind of came in. I was like, "What are you guys doing here?" And they kind of ragged on me because I lost my last match. I was like, "Oh, okay." So I get in the ring and I proceed to lay waste to the children. But it's funny because you can tell that they're having fun because you can just hear them giggling the entire time while I'm kind of like gut wrench powerbomb the one kid on the crash mat. And you just hear him giggling away as I'm doing it.
Yeah.
What?
It's just the thrill. I tell you something. As a kid, though, they have to be excited as heck just being in that ring. That's just the thrill of being in there, even.
Mm-hmm.
You kids you're so lucky that you got a program like this with Daryl and Primos, because you have the opportunity to really learn it correctly out of the gate. And we didn't have that opportunity when we were kids, when we did our NWF. There was nothing like this. So we had to go a different route, and it worked for us at the time, but I don't think that you could do it today. Wrestling's gotten it's not old school anymore like it was. It's a little bit more complicated today than it was back in the day.
Good job readjusting.
So this is a good,
actually a little
it's a good
segment
thing.
we worked on the other day.
Oh yeah, yep. Reversal.
Now retake the headlock.
Yeah.
See, all these spots are things you'll eventually have down as like clockwork.
Oh, is it
All right, take the headlock.
quick?
All right.
No, you're good.
Around, face the crowd.
Is that Malachi there that we're watching?
Good. Switch arms.
Certainly is.
Good.
Yeah, our end we're frozen. He's just wondering how he looked on
I see.
live.
So yeah, I told you that might happen on the phone. On the phone, it'll do that. If you're on a computer, you won't have this problem. But yeah, it's one of the downsides of the cell phone. But
Yeah, I think that's why he's like, our end we're frozen, but I'm letting him know we are live. I could see his head move and everything.
Yeah, you're still there.
So I'm letting him know we're good.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Now this is the part with Charles, I believe, right?
Yep. This is kind of a spot that I'm working on with him too.
Yeah.
You can't talk to people like that. You're a nerd. You're a loser. That's not cool. What are you going to do about it? It's not like you can get in here. No, he can't get in here. He's not a wrestler. He's not a wrestler. What are you doing in here?
Charles is tall now, it seems. Like, I didn't think he was that tall before in what I've seen pictures of him before.
I think he's like 6'2".
Wow. He's a tall guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you serious? Are you serious? How many people actually think that this is going to be good? Everybody's like, yeah.
And you know what I like here? I like how you talk him through this whole thing. So like you'll kind of tell him what to do.
What do you think now? Huh? What do you think now?
I don't know if you guys can hear it. I'll turn it up a little bit so we can hear the audio a little bit better. See how you're coaching him as you're doing it. I like that. So you're telling him to celebrate. This is all good stuff.
Yeah.
You know, just having the opportunity though for these guys is great. Can't stress that enough.
Like you said, back in the days we didn't have nothing. Like I remember growing up, we did backyard wrestling.
Like in the trampoline.
But that's the time of my age, and
right.
But I'm glad they have a program like this, and he could be safe in the ring.
Yeah, and backyard wrestling, especially the 90s. Well, really, backyard wrestling is a product of the 90s, and they just went on the hardcore edge, the ECW edge, and it really gave it a bad rap, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a time we like some hardcore matches, but he wants to make it up there. Daryl, he's an excellent teacher. Like he's wonderful with the kids.
Yeah, and you need to be like that with the kids. So it's a good thing you have somebody like Daryl because not any some I could imagine there's trainers out there that might train well for the adults but probably couldn't handle training kids. You got to have the right person, the right personality for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Kids they pretty much they get enough for like 2 hours and they're like, I'm ready to do something else.
This video was like more for a cell phone, so I had to kind of crop it to make it fit, but so that's why it kind of has all the black. But yeah, that was cool stuff, and kind of shows you a little bit about what Daryl's doing with the kids. And you mentioned backyard wrestling back when you were younger. That was when we did NWF, we were before that even, and the term didn't exist, so nobody considered us backyard. And in fact, when they see it today, they sometimes think it was backyard wrestling of the 90s, but we weren't. So we always had to fight the whole backyard wrestling thing with the NWF, in our reputation, because once we got noticed and started doing our live events, Eddie Sharkey, a very prominent promoter and trainer, he wanted to do an event with us. So, you got to realize it was just a different era. And then what happens in the 90s, backyard wrestling comes out and they start getting hurt. They didn't respect the business. I mean, I could go on and on. And so the problem is it just gave a real black eye to having kids involved. And that is where we're at today. It's been taking a long time to get to where you're at now, because of backyard wrestling. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so that's just kind of, it is what it is. But I'm glad that, that's no longer. I mean, there's still backyard out there, but it's not like it used to be. And it's not, what the kind of programs you guys are doing and the other organizations, the NFS, this is why I promote this kind of stuff, because I want people to know that there are things like this around the country if you look hard enough, and you can get involved the right way, right? So
Yeah.
and that's what it's all about. We got some questions here. Let's see. This is a good one from Damien. He wants to know, this would be for you, Malachi.
Yeah.
Are any of you treated any different at school because you work with the wrestling program? Like when the other friends at school find out about this, how do they treat you?
Like, they're happy for me and very happy for me and
So
all
they're
that stuff.
supportive for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you might run into kids, though, that might try to tease you and this and that. That happens.
Yeah.
And when you get that, my advice there, if you ever run into that, just, let it go on one ear and out the other. Don't let it get to you. Right?
Yeah.
Usually what I found when I was a kid, because our show was on cable, so everybody's seen it in our school, because cable was like the only thing we had. There was no satellite, no internet. But the kids that gave me a hard time or teased me were the ones that didn't like wrestling to begin with. So, of course, right? That's what I learned over time. But then I found the ones that liked wrestling, they thought it was cool. So I'm sure that's just the way it is. It's the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Let's see. Gizmo says, Crusher, some things don't change. I see these boys are using socks just like your group did at the start. I am sure they will grow into boots as they get older. Yeah. They need to, because boots protect your ankles in this business. So you do need to get boots eventually when you start.
Yeah. You can get wrestling shoes and wrestling boots.
Yeah, wrestling shoes are a good way to start too. The trouble with getting actual wrestling boots, though, for kids, I've said this before, is they're going to grow out of them so fast. And that's the thing. And they're not cheap. And I mean, back in our day, I don't know what they are now, but back in the day, in the 80s, we had to pay upwards of $200 for a pair of wrestling boots. And that was a lot of money back then. So, yeah.
I get a basic pair for about $250. If I want patent leather, about $500.
Yeah, because back then they were just leather. There's only one place, Daryl, you could get boots back in the day. B-Bar A Boot Company in Arkansas. And if you didn't have that contact information from somebody in the business, you didn't get boots. It's funny. It was like an old Xerox sheet that was copied from over and over and over and probably handed through who knows how many promotions, But yeah, so that's a good point, though. That starting out in socks, we did the same thing, and then eventually we realized that our feet are starting to hurt here. We need to do something for that. Let's see. We got a question here or a comment here from CJ Hockey. Says, talking about backyard wrestling, he says in the 90s it was more like ECW in the mid-late 2000s, and in the 2010s backyard wrestling was starting to be more like Ring of Honor and TNA wrestling, to put on a 5-star matches to please Dave Meltzer. Yeah, it's evolving, I'm sure. But I don't know, CJ. I still think what these guys are doing here in a proper indie fed with proper training is still a better way to go than to try to teach yourself and self-train. I know there were guys, self-training was actually, before backyard wrestling, self-training was a way to get into the business. A lot of guys started out. Bobby Heenan, I always said, probably one of the best workers in my era, even though he's a manager, but you could put him in for anybody. And he never got trained a lick. He just knew he could work. So, but you can't, CJ, I don't think you can do it today that way, because it's not old school. It's not, there are complications with the moves. Moonsaults. You start getting into these kind of maneuvers and stuff like that. I don't even like the idea of even thinking of trying to self-train in that. So, that's my opinion anyway. Let's just say that. Daryl, you can feel free to chime in too if you want.
Oh no, the moonsault is definitely a more advanced definitely under supervision type of practice.
Yeah.
I mean, with their age group, there are certain moves we don't even do. I mean, for the most part, we don't even do bumps because of their age.
Sure.
The only time we really like bump around or anything like that is we bring out the crash pad just to protect them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but there'll come a time when like I'm trying to think, like when I talked to Sub Force Arnie in Europe, that was my first guest I ever had. I asked him, I said, how did this come about? Because they're doing like suplexes, they're doing everything. I said, how did you get there? And he's 9 years old, but he started when he was 7. And he said it was just baby steps. In the beginning, it was all the fundamentals, the lockups, the maneuvers, like the counters and all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Rolls, and they do that. Every one of these organizations, Daryl, is doing the same thing. There's aesthetics, workouts, train, all the physicalness that goes with it to get them in shape. Everybody does the same thing there. It's interesting how you guys don't even know each other, but you're doing the same kind of training. It's to me, that's interesting that, it's like a universal thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then what they did is then they would start with the crash mat pads and start doing bumps on crash mat pads and then work into doing it on the ring. So it was a gradual thing. So they just took it in one step at a time. And then when they started doing their first matches, they did something a little different. They would rehearse the match. They would say, okay, you're going to wrestle, this kid's going to wrestle this kid, and you guys are going to practice this for a month. And they're going to have a routine down. That's not how we do it in the business, but for kids, certainly a good way to start, right?
Yeah.
And then get them just so that way they have what's good about that, Daryl, when you start like that is the kids have the routine memorized. It eliminates a lot of chances to get hurt because they know what they're going to expect in that match.
Exactly. When they go over, just like anything else, the repetition.
Yeah.
It just gets you better. And also, it helps teach them a couple other fundamentals. Communication with your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Huge key. Huge component in the ring, in the wrestling business. Communication in the ring. Ring awareness. Knowing where you are in the ring. Teaching them like, hey, you may be able to work around the ring, but where do we start and finish the match? In the center. The match ends in the middle of the ring. Kind of working the crowd, working on your character work, everything like that. It's all very important. And we try to instill all that each week and make sure that they get all those fundamentals and really hammer those fundamentals home, where when it's ready, when it's time for them to actually get in there, like I said earlier, it's just that much easier.
Sure.
That less nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it makes total sense. And I think that, learning the communication, like you said, is huge. And, to be able to do it discreetly, that's something they have to learn. That's an art form, right? You got to know when to be able to do those communication spots. So, all comes with the guidance and training that you're giving them, so that's all a good thing. Let's see. We have a comment here from Alex Peterman. He says he loves his Sundays with the kids. So I don't know, somebody that you guys might know. Because he's talking about Sundays, so I'm assuming that they're involved with, maybe they have a kid in the program or something. Then they went on to say, Pixie, and then CJ Hack says when we were talking about that the backyard of today, yeah, he totally agrees and says he gets where we're coming from. So yeah, because I kind of made an oath that people are saying, well, how come you haven't talked to any backyard feds going on today? Because I don't really want to go down the backyard road. I want to stick with indie feds and proper guidance and training. And it's funny, Daryl, I've had people say, well, you're being kind of hypocritical there since looking at how you started on your own. But look, guys, 40 years ago was a different era. It's not 1980 anymore, or 83, 84 when we started. So because of the way
better ways of doing things.
Yeah. Because of the way it is today, I think that it's just a smarter move. So especially for the kids. So yeah, I'm not being hypocritical. I'm just being realistic. So, guys, Malachi, I'm going to ask you this. Once you start having matches, let's say let's just be let's like kind of get a crystal ball out. Let's just say that in a year from now, they're starting to have preliminary matches kind of on a regular basis in the beginning of the show, of the house shows that they do over there for Primos. And let's say they come out with maybe a junior title for the junior division. Is your goal then going to be champion?
Yeah.
I bet. You know, that was probably the hardest thing for some of our kids to deal with, was everybody wanted to be champion. That was a hard thing to teach kids, the art, the long term, the real end goal in all of this. It's not so much about having the belt, it's about how you get there, right?
Yeah.
So, but I get it. As a kid, you want to be champion, right? You want to be a champion in this, and so I totally understand. It's like that in the indies too. There's guys that'll work for free just to have a belt. So, so I get it. How are the other kids, Malachi? Do you get along with everybody in the training?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite person you like to train with there? And one of the other kids, like, there's somebody you feel like you get along with good and you like to practice with?
So Robert.
Robert? Is he one of the other kids?
Yeah, he's my stepbrother.
Oh, so you like to, yeah, so you have a comfort level, obviously, then.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you guys haven't probably learned it yet, but eventually you're going to learn about ring chemistry. You're going to find that there's people that you really work with well just because and it all starts with getting along with the person, right? So I'm sure so is Robert in this as well?
Yeah.
Yes, he went outside of the room real quick. Want me to grab him?
Oh, no. I just want to make sure that that's the Robert that was with you. So
yeah.
So I guess that answers that. So they're both training, Robert and Malachi. Yes. Yeah. Has Robert been in it just as long?
Yeah, actually, yes.
Okay. And okay, guys, what about this? So you understand babyface and heel, right?
Yeah.
What do you prefer? What do you like better? Do you like being a babyface or you like being a heel? If you're going to do this,
I like doing both. I get to be babyface, so babyface is my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. When I talked to the guys in Europe, I asked Subforce that, and he said he was a heel, and they kind of told him he's going to be a heel, and he's like, he goes, I wasn't really liking it at first, because every kid as a kid you want to be the hero, right? And but he said he got used to it, and then he's realized that the boos are cheers for him, and he can have fun. You get to mess with the crowd. It's much easier. I'll tell you this much, Malachi. It's much easier to be a heel than it is a baby face, because it's easy to insult the people. It's easy to get them on your back. As a baby face, if your heel's not doing a good job of that, you need to earn the crowd. And sometimes you may not necessarily get the cheers, even though you're supposed to. So, yeah, it can be rough sometimes. One time I had a match there where I was booed, and I don't know why, and I still don't know how that happened. And it just happens sometimes. You go into a different area, they don't know who you are, and so. And I'll tell you something: when you get booed, when you're not expecting it, it messes with you. Messes with your mind.
Like, wait a second, I wasn't expecting that.
Malibu.
It's like, why is this happening?
So my gimmick name is Malibu Bobby.
Yeah.
So at a lot of our shows, that's what they'll say is like Malibu.
Yeah.
We'll get the whole house going. Oh my goodness, they hate my guts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we got an explanation here for I'll bring this comment in. So Effie says, to elaborate from Alex Peterman, that's Pixie Pulsing, she is another wrestler from Primos. Also frequently helps to instruct alongside Daryl on Sundays. So offering our support. Great live stream. Yeah. So now
Love
we
you
know.
guys.
All right. And then she says,
Effie and Fixing, they're amazing people.
Effie says, Malibu, she says.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
So, hey, now let me ask you this. So how often does Primos do like local shows?
Oh my goodness, we've been running shows like crazy this summer. Like 2-3 shows a month lately. We just had a show last weekend. We have another here coming up. Yeah, we're rocking and rolling.
Is there any other leagues, indie leagues in the metro area there, or is it just you guys?
There's what, 2 up here, but in Colorado there's probably like 5, 6. It's hard to keep track.
Yeah. Is there good working relationships, or are there a couple leagues that don't like each other?
As far as I know, they're pretty good working relationships with everybody. I mean, I see multiple people that I know at Primos and other shows when I'm there. Yeah, it's we see a lot of the same faces, a lot of places we go, a lot of promotions we go here in Colorado.
Yeah, I think most part of nowadays it's most people get along. So yeah, it's funny. Like when I talk to the folks over there in Ireland, there's like they tell me there's like 6 promotions or so in the indie scene over there, or maybe 4 there was, but it's a small little island, Ireland. It's like how do they, like if you look at the geographical size, it's like how can they all work together so easily? You know, it's like they're almost right. You know, and then he told me the guy who runs the league there goes, well, we've had shows, and then right down the street they're having a show as well. You imagine 2 indie shows going on like a couple blocks.
We've had that where we've had like CWC down in Colorado Springs on a Saturday and then Primos on a Sunday. We've had 3 different Colorado promotions, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like straight through the weekend.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, huh? But there's so many more indie leagues now today too. Now, do you guys, when the kids eventually graduate into the adult classes, is that kind of the goal then, is as they get older to have them transition?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. We definitely want them to keep progressing. We want them to keep climbing higher and higher and higher as far as they want to go.
Yeah, and then in getting into the indie scene, do you kind of try to help them work with the other leagues, maybe get some, if they need some help with matches in the other shows in Colorado Springs, whatever the case may be, kind of getting them to travel locally a little bit even?
Yeah, and what's great about them getting all this exposure now is they are making those connections now. You know, by going to the kids' classes and then going to the Primo shows, they are making those connections and they're meeting those people now. Sure. So when they do graduate and it does come time, they already know those people. So it may be easier for them to get spots in other places.
Well, let me tell you something, you guys. In this day and age, it's all about your social media presence, right? Especially in the indie scene. You need to kind of be your own marketer. And that Subforce Arnie I told you about that I interviewed, he's like 9 years old. He's already got his YouTube channel going. He's monetized. He has so many people watching his stuff and being followed. And so that's, giving yourself a presence in social media, I think, is huge. And as, I know in Northern Ireland too, they also help push that on all their guys too. As they work the independent shows, they said, you got to market yourself, do what you can to get yourself out there on social media, as you get into the indie business. So it's different now. You have all these social media things, like we're looking at the whole list of them here for you guys. And it's like, that's a big thing. Back in the day, back in old school day, man, we didn't have any of this. So it was just, you had a promo tape. If you could put one together, send some pictures and photos, that's all you could do. So it's really big now with social media, right? And they need to start, if they start now and getting their character development and start doing their social media presence, it's only going to be that much more when they get into the full-blown thing, right? So let's see. We had a question here from Effie. He says this: Who are your wrestling idols' favorite wrestlers? I want to know for both Malachi and Malibu. So who's your favorite idols, favorite wrestlers?
Who's your favorite idol in wrestling?
Yeah, I should have asked that. I usually do.
My favorite idol in pro wrestling, probably main event Jake Uso.
Uso? Yeah,
Main
that
event Jake Uso.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And Malibu?
I grew up back in the '80s, man. So Bret Hart was a huge idol of mine back then. He was probably, definitely top favorite wrestler back in the day. Definitely.
Was that when Bret was like part of the Hart Foundation, or when he was on his own?
Yeah, started with the Hart Foundation and then kind of branched out onto his own and kind of went back to the Hart Foundation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Uso is the one that Malachi likes, huh?
Mhm.
Like I said earlier, he has quite the Uso splash right now.
Yeah.
And
So-
really-
At what point then do you think you'll start having them? Are they doing any bumps at all on like bumps on crash mats?
Yeah.
so there's-
We work on the fundamentals of doing the bumps, like tucking the chin, making sure you slap your hands down, making sure you land flat on your back, all the proper steps and techniques of taking those bumps, back bumps, front bumps. We've worked on hip tosses with them. I've worked on body slams with them, just kind of like showing them the mechanics.
Mhm.
But so far, that's about it. I mean, but
All right.
during free time, we kind of like have like a free for all.
Sure.
Where we're kind of doing all kinds of stuff like suplexes and slams and off the top rope stuff and all kinds of things like that.
Right. So, yeah, Malachi, is that your favorite? What's your favorite part of training then? Like out of all, do you like that free time session where you get to start doing that stuff?
I really like to do rolls and
Rolls?
doing bumps.
And then the bumps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like? Are you one that likes to deliver, or do you like taking the bumps?
Taking the bumps.
Yeah.
He's definitely the more courageous out of the group. He will move the crash pad out of the way to do bumps right on the mat.
We got another question for you here, Malachi, from Astro Love. They want to know this. Malachi, when you get the opportunity to wrestle, who is someone within Primos that you would love to have a match with? So if you're going to get your first match, who do you want it to be with?
Got to be Malibu.
So you want to be in the ring with Malibu. Now, do you think you're biting off more than you can chew there? Well, there's an old saying, though. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, size of the fight in the dog. So always remember that. But yeah, that would be fun, huh? I suppose they just can't wait to do that, huh, Daryl?
I can't wait to do it either. It's going to
Yeah.
be so much fun.
Yep, and you got to start it somewhere. So and just ease into it, take it easy, and then one step at a time, and then I think in time it'll be it could be a regular thing.
Yeah.
The guys over there in Slam Wrestling, they actually have their own shows now with the juniors and the kids. Like it used to be the preliminaries, right? Or they'd end with a kid match or something. Now they do it. They do their own their whole entire shows. So it's.
Yeah, I've seen those videos with the kids having a match, a ladder match.
Yeah, the ladder match they did, and and then the sub force Arnie, he was doing superplexes already. Even I asked about that one in particular. I said superplexes. I don't even know if we did that. I said, how did this? And he says that his dad was telling me it was it took a lot of time to get to that. They had to use crash mat pads. They had to work up to it and stuff. It wasn't like they just did it. They said, "Hey, I want to do that," and then the next day they're doing it. It said it was a process to get to there. So that's just it. And it's Daryl, you're running the program for the training, so it'll be you'll see these moments where you figure they can take to the next level, and you'll be the judge of that. So, and I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm seeing that in both Malachi and Charles now. Like I said, Malachi is our most tenured student. He's come a very long way.
Mhm.
I feel as though if we keep doing the things that we're doing, he's going to be ready very, very soon, along with Charles. They're picking things up very quickly. They're having a lot of fun, I feel, at least I hope. But yeah, I think they're going to be ready here like September,
And
yeah, to actually like do something at a show, do a little spot, do something to kind of help bring more attention to them and their program.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll be ready by then.
I just need to practice on my roles.
Sure. And that's the thing, Malachi. The more you practice, the more you're going to get better at it. That's with anything. So the more you keep working at it and really trying to be better and better, the more likely that will happen, and the more sooner it'll happen. So you just keep plugging away. You'll get there.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm watching your training footage there, and I'm not looking at the crispness. I'm not looking at technique and perfect picture perfect technique. What I see is that all you kids have the heart. You're there. You're doing it. You're going through the motions every week. You can't train that. Having heart, I'll tell you. Let me tell you a story. We would have guys that would come on our show that were really gifted athletically, but then we'd have others that weren't gifted so much athletically, but their heart was in it 10 times the person that was gifted, right, in the ring.
Yeah.
I would much rather take these kids that have heart, because I can teach them the physical stuff, right? I can't teach heart, and so to have have it in your blood and heart and really want to do it and be good at it, that is something that can't be taught. So, you just keep plugging away at it, and good things always come from hard work. So
That's why I was saying earlier when you asked the question, what challenges I see, and I said I really don't see any, because these kids want to come to class and they want to put the effort and the work in every week. And they keep coming back. They keep coming back, and they're having fun and they're learning.
Yeah, it makes total sense, And let's see. Here's another one from Astro Love. Says, Malachi, who is someone that inspired you to get into wrestling?
By watching wrestling a lot, and probably my grandpa and my dad, because my dad takes me to wrestling shows, and my grandpa and me watch SmackDown together and all of that.
Yeah. Well, you got supportive parents and grandparents that are helping, and that always helps. So, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
my uncle.
Yeah, and that's just it, having family support you. And I just think it's good that you've got a good program that you're in, that you're learning things, and you're, the reason I'm all interested, people are saying, people might wonder, why do I care? Because I can put myself in your shoes, Malachi. I know what it was like at your age. And I took the bull by the horns and just made it work myself and did it. But I know as a kid, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're going through. And I know that lust and desire to just want to make it. You want to make it. You want to make it the best of it. And you really want to get in there and have a match. So I understand, the more so than a lot of people, because I was a kid at one time doing all this. So that's why I can relate. And so for me today to see you kids getting proper guidance and training, like right on. I looked for the kind of program that you're in back in the day, but it didn't exist. If I would have went to Eddie Sharkey when I was 14 and said, "Hey, Eddie, I want to start training," he would have said, "Come back, kid. Come back when you're an adult." They just didn't train kids back then. So good thing. It's a good thing, I think. And this is because I'll tell you something. If you weren't doing what you're doing, Daryl, if you guys didn't have your program, what would they be left with? Backyard wrestling or some other avenue. So that's why I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a little bit more safer what I did when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I'm glad Joey has this program for the kids. It's
sure.
And yeah, it's a wonderful I'm glad he's chasing his dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as a parent, do you ever get nervous at all watching the training? I'm sure are you there at the training sessions with them?
Yes, I actually
Yeah.
practice with them, and I'm a little bit nervous, but not all the way.
Yeah.
Not like mom.
Yeah.
Mom's more nervous than I am.
Yeah, she probably watches like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Most
yeah.
moms
So,
do.
yeah, but yeah, he got me more into it, being physical with it and learning more about it versus what I did when I was a kid. Like I said, I did backyard wrestling. We had people, you got to have permission slips, but I learned to forge mine. But,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
it's you're right. I mean, backyard was a different, it's a different element. But in the '90s backyard, it just depends. Like, if you were, depends what there were backyard leagues in the '90s. I don't want to trash it all because there were some leagues that were trying to do things more organized, like what we did. But there was just too many of them that weren't, and were just doing just crazy. They were all about fluorescent tubes and thumbtacks and jumping off of a roof onto a table that's on fire and just different things like that. And they're trying to go for the extreme because they heard Mick Foley and they heard about the Hardy Boys and they thought, we could do this. And that's the problem with the '90s backyard. It just got a bad reputation because of too many people doing that stuff, right?
oh yeah.
But I do know these guys, the YouTubers. One of the friends are a wrestler, and they do some backyard stuff. And that once they spear one of his friends through a table and on fire.
Yeah, and a lot of times it winds up on the news because somebody got hurt and they were in the hospital or whatever the case may be. The idea, like and the reason Vern, like I always tell the story, Vern Gagne didn't condemn us because he's seen what we were doing and he knew that we had respect. He knew we weren't trying to hurt one another. It was never our intention. And sometimes with those backyards of the '90s, they wanted to try to showcase violence. They wanted to showcase how much pain you can endure. So they do these outrageous things.
Oh yeah.
And that kind of gets away from the whole element of what professional wrestling is all about, right?
Oh yeah. Like WWF and ECW, beginning of their stuff says, "Do not try this at home."
Sure.
Even Joey practices that, and Malibu. They said the ring is the ring. Do it at the butcher shop, and that's what we do. Who practices in that ring every Sunday.
But I do know these kids. This kid who practiced with a teddy bear, and he jumps off his roof. It's like backyard. I don't know. I forgot.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids that jump off roofs and stuff trying to do this, and that's
yeah.
But and it's just I understand their passion of wanting to be in wrestling. I get that part of it, but I just think there's just better ways that they could go about it. There's in this day and age, there's enough places I think that if they haven't started, they're going to be starting, and there's going to be enough avenues for kids to get into this the right way, and that's really the key element here. So it's the whole reason I do Forward is just to try to showcase this. So like anybody in the Denver, Colorado area, if you guys are interested in this and you want to get your kids' interest, maybe you're a parent out there watching saying, yeah, my kid really wants to do this. And you're in that suburb, in that Denver metro area, you check these guys out, see what they're all about here, get involved.
Please stop by.
Oh yeah.
I think it would be a really good thing. But, let's see. I don't know if we have any other questions from the crowd. I don't see anything else coming in. If you have any other questions, let's try to get them in here, and we're gonna probably start to wrap up. But let me ask you this: so, if you get this off with having some kind of angle or some kind of moment, spot in the ring, get these kids involved, Do you think it would be then become like a regular thing? You're gonna try to maybe get the kids working with each other in a match?
I hope it would spawn something like that. That would be
Sure.
great. I mean, it would give them something to reach for. It would give them something to aspire to, you know?
Yep. They need to have those kind of goals too. And the reason, Daryl, because like we said, look at Malachi. He wants to be in front of a crowd, right? He wants to do this in front of people. And that's probably every kid. So you got to give him that bone to go for, right? You got to throw him a bone. And, and something, just knowing what the other leagues did, your junior match isn't going to be textbook precision, right? But it's going to be the fundamentals. The match might be maybe a little more basic, but it gets their feet wet, right?
Yep.
And that's the whole idea. So I think it's a good thing. So I'll be real interested. We can follow up again, and maybe have you guys come back on, and 6 months from now, and we'll talk about this and see where you're at. At that point, maybe you're already having matches and everything. I think it'd be great.
Oh, that would be great. If 6 months from now we're already had a couple of matches under their belt, that would be awesome.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure we could do a follow up and see where you're at, and I'm sure our viewers would certainly be interested to see too. But yeah, I want to thank you guys. It looks like Joe and Charles just had some connection issues, and sometimes it happens. So, but I'm glad that you two were able to come on. We had a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it, Crusher.
Hey, it was a lot of fun just learning about how the program's going, and it sounds like you're really into this though, Daryl. Like you really enjoy this.
I do. This is kind of my way of giving back.
Yeah. And it's got to be rewarding to see the kids progress,
Oh yeah, it's awesome watching them learn. It's awesome watching them pick it up. It's awesome watching them kind of put the things together and smile where they're doing it. And, I'm sure they thoroughly enjoy beating me up at the end of class too.
Yep.
Well, and Astrolov's got a thing she says, or he or she says, can't wait to see what this new generation brings to the wrestling world. That's the whole thing for me too, I mean, I might be talking to a future WWE star as we speak, with Malachi. Who knows? The sky's the limit here. You're going to go as far as you can in this business. It's all up to you. I've always said this, Malachi, remember this. There's only one person that can stop you from reaching your goals, and that's you. So sky is the limit. You go as far as you can with this business, and as you get into this and progress through this whole thing, if you stick with it, that is, it's, you're going to, what I mean by that, when I say you're the only one that can stop you, is when you start doubting yourself, if you start second guessing, when you start questioning, that's the enemy within. Just, you got to learn to tunnel vision through that and just keep looking forward. Right?
Yeah.
That's always my advice with you youngsters. I just want to make sure you understand that, you can get anywhere in this world if you put your mind to it. So always remember. I just want to go over a few things, you guys, for our regular viewers here, just to let you know what's going to be coming up. This coming Sunday, as you know, I do another podcast with Wrestling Revolution Keaton, and we're going to be talking to Matt Moore of the Moore Army, and that's going to be on Kayfabe with Keaton on Sundays. And I just host this show with him, and so I always like to point out who we're going to have on Sunday, because we do simulcast on both of our channels when we do this podcast. So be interesting to see what he's all about, Matt Moore. And then our next show, next Thursday, of course, we do a rewind episode. We're going back in time to Studio Taping 97. Dixie Dave is, of course, on with me on those shows, and that'll be Thursday, August 8th. So that's a week from today. We'll take a look at this taping. This is from 1987 in the Dayton studios. So should be a fun episode to watch, fully restored, of course. Or you guys probably aren't aware, but we're taking our old VHS library and we're upscaling everything to 1080p now. So it's finally looking a little bit better video-wise than it used to back in the day. And that's not an easy, Daryl, that's not an easy process. That's a lot of work.
Well, I'm sure.
Behind, that I do have to, you wouldn't believe what we have to go through for that. But and it's just several steps to take this old crappy VHS and bring it up.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's fun. it's fun to do it and see it, and everybody likes watching that stuff. I always said, Daryl, I don't know why. When I look back at our early stuff, I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know if I want to watch. This. We didn't know what we were doing in the beginning. I don't really like watching this. I like our later stuff, but the beginning was rough. But then I had our viewers would tell me, they said, we're not watching it for that. We'd like seeing that evolution you took, and how you did progress. To them, it's fascinating.
Everybody starts somewhere. Everybody has their beginnings. So, and it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this is I kind of want to look back and not have any of those woulda, coulda, shoulda moments.
Sure. Yep.
So that's one of the big reasons why I do this, especially working with the kids. It's a way of giving back from being able to be in this business, having the opportunity to wrestle, because anybody can try it, but it's tough.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? It's better today though, because back in my day, Daryl, if you weren't a big guy, you weren't going any further than the indies.
Right.
At least now everybody has an opportunity to get up there if they're good enough. That's the good part. But yeah, no, it's been a great conversation, you guys. And one other thing, Malachi, and this goes for all the other kids that might be watching this that are in your program. Save every bit of footage, all your training stuff, any match. It's so easy to save digital stuff today. Don't lose it. Save all that stuff. You don't know how much I've got a lot, but there's stuff that I had to, back in the day we were on tapes, VHS tapes, and we'd have to record over them because they're so expensive, And
great having something to reminisce.
Yes, you're definitely going to want to look back at this stuff when you get older. So save every single bit of footage. It's easy to do today, so don't lose any of your stuff.
All right.
And yeah, let's reconnect again, you guys. Maybe another 6 months or so, and we'll see where you guys are at. And
that'd be awesome, man.
Maybe hopefully we can get Joe to get in and stuff, and Charles. And by the way, Charles, if you missed out on this one, you are welcome anytime. You just get, you have my email. So you just let me know if you want to connect in again, and we can do a one-on-one with Charles if we want to get Charles in there. I don't want him to feel left out or anything. And that goes for any of the kids, Daryl.
Okay.
If anybody wants to come on, just let them know. That's what this show's all about,
Nice.
Show their journey as they go through all this. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're pretty bummed out that they weren't able to join, but we'll talk about it Sunday. But
look, stuff happens.
We'll be ready for the next one.
It happens, and it is what it is, and there's nothing, so but we had a great conversation. We learned a lot about Malachi, and I don't want to leave out your stepbrother. Is that right? Stepbrother?
Yeah, stepbrother.
Yeah. So,
Robert. Yeah, he's a shy one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's funny, this when I talk to the Subforce, he's 9 years old. It was my first interview I did, and I'm used to this, but he wasn't. But and I'm thinking, he's monetized. He's got all these viewers, and he was nervous coming on our little show that we do, And I'm like, listen, Arnie, you have nothing to be nervous about, right? You're going to do fine. So, it's all good, and it lets everybody know what you're all about. That's what this show's all about. So I really enjoyed you guys coming on. I hope you had a good time, and
thank you very much.
I had a great time. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it was great. And like I said, we'll follow up again. So I hope everybody enjoyed the show tonight. And like I said, I'll be back on Sunday with the Kayfabe with Keaton. And then next week, Dixie Dave, he was missed this last week. We'll have him back, and we'll be able to do another Rewind show. So we'll look forward to seeing everybody then. So yeah, great show. And like I said, we will see everybody either Sunday or Thursday next week. So long, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.